What's up, everybody? Another emergency pod as the Celtics, somewhat sad but maybe inevitable offseason rolls on. Free agency has opened, and the Celtics have found out that Luke Kornet is signing with the San Antonio Spurs, 4 years, $41 million. On one hand, you have to be thrilled for Luke. Here is a player who, even last season, coming off the championship year and after emerging as a key role player for the Celtics, came back on a veteran minimum deal to try to help the Celtics go back-to-back, left money on the table to be here, and even though he's prospered and turned into an analytics darling and emerged and had a whole lot of fun along the way, he gets his deserving payday from the Spurs, going down there to join Wemby and co. on what could be very shortly a championship caliber team. The obvious impact for the Celtics here, the already thin front court, will now be missing another kind of vital piece. You can dress it up however you want. Luke, obviously, just quite a journey overall, going from undrafted, then kind of toiling in the G League, kind of claws his way to the NBA, ends up here in that 3-team deal with Chicago, and gets a chance to flourish with the Celtics. But even at first, he was kind of like in the G League a little bit, weird pandemic year, but just kept grinding and getting better and keying the Stay Ready group, and his personality blossomed. It was really cool to see the trajectory of how Luke Kornet blossomed here in Boston. And again, I think most people can look at this and understand the financial limitations the Celtics are on, and understand that this was just the way it had to be, and feel good for Luke going out and getting that payday. But again, you start looking at the depth chart, and Neemias Queta right now is your most experienced center. I guess you could say Xavier Tillman, but we'll see if he's on the roster. Didn't get on the floor a whole lot last season. There's still some uncertainty. As I'm taping this, I'm keeping an eye on the Twitter feed to see what happens with Al Horford. A lot of rumors circulating today about potential interest from the Golden State Warriors, and a chance the Celtics might lose both of their top big men from last season, having already watched Kristaps Porzingis depart. I think one of the things I'm left thinking about is like just how much joy Luke brought over the seasons. I mean, I hate to be selfish in this moment, but you start thinking about all the levity he brought on camera, the way he filled up our notebook with quotes. Luke will be missed well beyond just what he brought to the court, and the court stuff shouldn't be dismissed either. Again, analytics darling last season. I think one of the things that really jumped out was how good the Celtics were, especially when him and Tatum were on the court together. Obviously, no Tatum to start next season. Maybe that takes a little bit of the sting away from it. But Luke was just so good when he was in there. Someone had a stat today: the number of defenders that died on screens trying to fight through Luke, and I think it was second in the NBA. And it really just speaks to how good he was and how good fundamentally. Here's a guy who really struggled rebounding the basketball through his early seasons in Boston. I remember a lot of times yelling at the TV, wanting Luke to grab more defensive rebounds, and then he just got so much better in that aspect, and especially on the offensive glass, and turned himself into a weapon. And again, the analytics were so good, and the positive impact that he had, whether it was with the bench, whether it was with the starters. But invariably, it's the sort of, in a year where everything was about championship and the expectations and the weight of it all, and it would have been very easy for the Celtics to get frustrated at times, you always had Luke in there to bring that levity and the personality, and to be willing to step in front of the cameras even when things weren't going bad, and be able to put a spin on things. I'll miss a lot of the Luke stuff. I'll miss the barking like a dog. I'll miss the Stromile Swift celebrations. I'll miss watching his reactions of pure joy when teammates did amazing things on the court, and how much it just delighted Luke Kornet when others had their moments, and just like how much he loved just watching Sam Hauser get hot, or a rookie throw down a dunk, or someone score a late game basket. Like Luke was joy personified. And I think one of the things I keep saying is, You're losing Luke. You're losing Kristaps. Two guys that just really brought a lot of joy to this basketball team over the last 2 seasons and beyond. And, it all boils down to what you do on the basketball court, but undeniably, you can't help but miss a little bit of what they brought off it as well. And I think that will reverberate when we hear from the remaining Celtics about what they're missing out in watching Luke go on. I'm fascinated to watch how it will play off in San Antonio. Like it's gonna be fun seeing some Wemby and Luke combinations, or however they roll that out, or even if Luke is just more in backup big man minutes, they're invariably going to share the court a lot. He's just the perfect guy to set screens and do all the little stuff, and we'll see if they keep him around the basket or if they'll stretch him back out and let him shoot the threes that he dismissed here in Boston through the years, so that he could just focus on what the Celtics needed to be good. I guess the other moment that really jumps to mind, and it goes back to the fundamentals of it, is during the playoffs, Luke got beat on a play, and Mitchell Robinson was going to go up for an easy bucket, and Luke just wailed him, fouled him hard. And it wasn't like intentionally mean or anything. It was just the game plan was like, put him on the line. Don't let Mitchell Robinson have easy baskets. Don't let him get rebounds. Don't let him get easy baskets. Make him earn everything. And Luke was able to take the game plan and just execute it to a different level than most players. There's one thing to take coaching, and kind of have it in your mind. It's another to go out there and just do it time after time after time. And it's part of what made Luke so valuable to this team. I think back to when he first got here, again, that pandemic season. I want to say his first game, he had a really decent night, and we ended up interviewing him after the game, and he was still wearing the mask in the post game. And it was so funny. You couldn't have thought that that same guy who seemed maybe a little bit nervous would blossom into the personality that he became when he had Brad Stevens on the podcast for the Celtics and hosting the Shamrock Foundation. Luke was seemingly on a trajectory to be a legitimate Boston legend, and hey, he won a championship, so he's in that conversation. But man, you're gonna miss a lot of what Luke brought here to the Celtics, and what he meant over the past few years. What he meant to just like that bench group as a whole. Like, does Peyton Pritchard, does Sam Hauser, do those guys get as good without Luke being part of that stay ready group and pushing everybody and embracing that tagline and just bringing the levity? So it's going to be tough for the Celtics to replace both the production and his presence in the locker room. But invariably, that's where our mind goes now. So as we wait to see what happens with Al Horford, where do the Celtics go? They don't have a lot of options. Part of what we wrote today in advance of free agency was even if they made some minor moves, it wasn't going to probably clear enough money. Watching Luke sign for an average annual value of over $10 million, the Celtics were unlikely to get to that spot, and they would have had to take some pretty big drastic cuts. Maybe Anthony Simons never suits up in green. I wonder if that's more likely now. But certainly the Celtics need some big men to fill out this roster. And so how do you get that? If you can trim some money, you might have a taxpayer mid-level exception available. If the goal is to ultimately get under the tax, then you do need to move Simons, and maybe that frees up some money to get something above a minimum center. But to stay under the tax and do that is still going to be cumbersome. So I wonder if any moves the Celtics make moving forward will be built around potentially getting a younger center back. We'll see what happens with the draft picks. It's just there's got to be an emphasis on development at that position next season, and no easy answers. Nimi Keita is going to get every chance to continue his own development and his own blossoming, but a lot of pressure on the Celtics here to figure this out. And now, as I'm going here, the alert that free agent center Luke Garza has agreed to a 2-year, $5.5 million deal with the Boston Celtics per ESPN. Gonna admit, that's the sort of deal that you're left doing. Veteran minimum deals to try to fill out that roster. We'll have to see what the Celtics do. But the big story here, Luke Kornet off to San Antonio. We're gonna miss him. This is a tough loss for the Celtics and their fan base. Celtics got some work to do to put this puzzle back together and keep the finances in order. All right, I couldn't even make it through a full emergency pod without the Celtics engaging more activity. So we go from Luke to Luka as the Celtics sign Luka Garza, 26-year-old big man, 6'10", the 52nd overall pick in the 21 draft. Started in Detroit, moved over to Minnesota the last few years. The scouting report says, of course, quite a skilled offensive player, is active on the glass, brings some serious intensity on the court. Seems appropriate that as Luke goes out, Luka comes in, maybe he can fill a little bit of the personality void and try to bring a little something that Luke did to the floor. Now the question is Luke Kornet was very good on the defensive end for the Celtics. Luka Garza's scouting report not as glowing. He's going to have to improve his game on that end. You know, if Anthony Simons is still here, a lot of the new guys that they're bringing in, they're going to have to really kind of to turn it up. But Celtics rolling the dice with a defined skill set. Garza did shoot. I think he shot 41% on three-pointers a couple seasons ago. That number was way down the last 2 years. But undeniably, he can bring a physical presence around the basket. And an opportunity to see if he can grow in that role for the Celtics. Again, this is the sort of thing what the Celtics have to do. It's like minimum salary guys, bring them in, try to coach them up, see if you can tap into something that hasn't been tapped into at other stops. You know, when Luke Kornet first signed here, I would say we probably didn't know what he would blossom into, and now he's getting 4 years, $41 million. A chance here for Luka Garza to take the next step in his development. The Celtics adding a big man on a day they lose one, and now we wait to see what happens with Al Horford. While we're doing that, everyone go like, go subscribe, go check us out on the YouTube page. I'm telling you, hit the subscribe button because these emergency pods are going to be flying. Might not even be done tonight. We'll catch you again next time on the Celtics Talk podcast.